For over 70 years, the island of Taiwan has maintained its autonomy behind a shield of American military protection. Recently, that security guarantee was put on the negotiating table. At a bilateral summit in Beijing, President Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping held closed-door discussions that prioritized short-term economic concessions over long-standing Pacific security pacts. Following the meetings, the United States unexpectedly placed a hold on more than $12 billion in pre-existing committed weapon sales to the Taiwanese military. In this manufacturing facility, aircraft are assembled for global buyers. The White House reported that the suspension of Taiwanese defense contracts was leveraged to secure massive commercial orders for American aerospace companies, specifically Boeing. These soybean fields represent another piece of the negotiation. The administration utilized the stalled defense deals to extract promises of heavy agricultural purchases from the Chinese government. The island's security architecture is no longer treated as an unmovable democratic commitment. It is now a transactional asset, traded to secure domestic economic wins in a great power negotiation. This framework breaks directly from the precedent set in 1982 by President Ronald Reagan. His administration issued 6 formal assurances to Taiwan, explicitly promising that the United States would never consult with Beijing prior to approving Taiwanese arms sales. American foreign policy has historically relied on a doctrine known as strategic ambiguity. By refusing to explicitly state how the U.S. military would respond to an invasion, Washington forced caution on both Beijing and Taipei. The recent summit dismantled both guardrails. The president publicly warned Taiwan against declaring independence, and reports suggest the administration actively discussed the approval of Taipei's arms purchases with Beijing. By discarding strategic ambiguity in favor of a business negotiation, the United States sent a clear signal. It demonstrated to the Chinese leadership that American military protection in the Pacific has a quantifiable price. To understand the gravity of this policy shift, we have to look back to 1949. As a violent civil war concluded, the Chinese Communist Party took control of the mainland, forcing the nationalist government to retreat across the street to the island of Taiwan. Under Mao Zedong and subsequent leaders, the mainland government has maintained a rigid position. Taiwan is an integral province of China, and its separation is temporary. To achieve reunification, Beijing employs an ancient strategic concept known as Xi, or strategic momentum. The objective is to manipulate conditions so heavily in your favor that the opponent yields before a single shot is fired. As you can see on this map, China has systematically dismantled Taipei's diplomatic network. By restricting trade with any nation that officially recognizes the island, Beijing has reduced Taiwan's formal diplomatic allies from 30 down to just 12. Simultaneously, the mainland has deeply integrated itself into the island's economy and media ecosystem. The goal is to create total economic dependence, packaging a potential takeover under the framework of one country, two systems. This methodical strategy of diplomatic isolation and economic entanglement has brought Taiwan to a breaking point. The withdrawal of American military backing is the final necessary condition for Beijing to claim victory. Leadership in Taipei recognizes the shifting winds in Washington. They understand if a conflict breaks out, American forces may not cross the Pacific to intervene. These Chinese vessels are part of a continuous campaign of military intimidation. Beijing frequently surrounds the island with mock naval blockades and aerial incursions, designed to drain Taiwan's defense budget and psychological resolve. In response, these Taiwanese forces are implementing what military planners call the porcupine defense. Rather than matching China ship for ship, they are stockpiling asymmetric, decentralized weapons, mobile missile launchers and sea mines, engineered to make an amphibious assault devastatingly bloody. Taiwan is not preparing to quietly capitulate at the negotiating table. If forced into a corner without international support, they are equipping themselves for a protracted, grueling urban war. A prolonged conflict over the island would immediately crash the global economy due to a single, hyper-concentrated industry. Inside clean rooms like this one, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, fabricates over 90% of the world's most advanced microchips. The entire infrastructure of modern life relies on this specific hardware. Everything from the processors in your smartphone, to the electric vehicles on the road, to the server farms powering artificial intelligence, requires Taiwanese silicon. If the mainland successfully occupies the island, or even instigates a naval blockade, Beijing instantly seizes the choke point of the 21st century economy. They would gain the unilateral ability to throttle the global technology supply chain. Taiwan acts as the geographic anchor of Pacific security. If the island falls, the defensive line shatters, immediately exposing allies like Japan and South Korea to direct military pressure. The threat also reaches these high-altitude borders in the Himalayas. China has maintained a persistent campaign of border incursions and territorial claims against India, stretching from Galwan to Arunachal Pradesh. Military planners note that a large portion of Beijing's strategic resources are currently tethered to the Taiwan Strait. Resolving that front would allow the People's Liberation Army to reallocate those same naval and ground assets to disputed territories along the Indian border. Trading a democratic ally for agricultural exports and aircraft orders marks the end of established American defense commitments. It hands the initiative for regional dominance directly to Beijing, signaling that the era of U.S.-led protection in the Pacific has closed.